Late one night in New York, a young woman calmly put on her lingerie and touched up her makeup. Then, she went to meet her one-night stand and wiped the blood from his mouth. She had slit his throat. With chilling composure, she erased every trace, cleaning the fingerprints from his hands and body before leaving the corpse behind in the hotel room. Her name was Hazel. 20 years later, Hazel runs a small diner, serving the same dull customers day after day. None of them suspect that the polite woman behind the counter once had a dark and dangerous past. Every time the police came in to buy something, she quietly waived the bill. Her teenage daughter, Joy, noticed and quickly confronted her about it. Hazel explained that maintaining a good relationship with the police was necessary. She needed them to respond quickly if an emergency ever arose. She couldn't afford to risk getting on their bad side. As the two were talking, Hazel suddenly noticed Joy's boyfriend sitting at one of the tables in the diner. She immediately made it clear she didn't like him. Realizing her mother would never accept him, Joy made a bold move. She begged her mom to hand over her entire college savings so she could leave Las Vegas and start a new life with her boyfriend. Upon hearing the request, Hazel immediately criticized her daughter for the impulsive idea and refused to hand over the college savings. She emphasized that she had built her life on her own, and Joy needed to do the same. Hazel believed the boyfriend was a bad influence and urged Joy to break up with him. But Joy stood her ground, insisting he was a good person. The conversation quickly escalated into an argument, and in frustration, Joy declared she would move out and start a new life with him. Joy's boyfriend didn't have money for college, just like Joy and many girls her age, living on impulsive emotions and daydreams. That same day, while serving a male customer, Joy realized he didn't have any money. After finishing his meal without paying, Joy became furious and shouted at him, convinced she'd been scammed. Hazel stepped in to defuse the situation. The man admitted he was homeless and couldn't afford the meal. Instead of kicking him out, Hazel offered him a dishwashing job and a temporary place to stay. After checking out the room, he introduced himself as Elliot. Meanwhile, Joy's boyfriend kept pressuring her for money to move out. When Joy told him to figure it out on his own, he insisted on using her college savings. The next day, while chatting with her regular customers, Hazel suddenly spotted Joy returning home, wearing sunglasses that covered most of her face. Sensing something was wrong, she immediately cut the conversation short and approached her daughter. Joy tried to avoid her, but Hazel quickly pulled off the sunglasses only to freeze in shock at the sight of a severe bruise around Joy's eye. Joy tried to explain that it was her boyfriend's fault, but she didn't want him to get hurt because his family was dangerous. But Hazel's fury drowned out everything else. Without another word, she left, went home, changed into a fierce-looking dress, and retrieved the gun hidden under her bed. At that moment, Joy's boyfriend was still carefree, unaware of the danger heading his way. He was laughing and chatting with a friend at an auto repair shop, completely oblivious to the fact that Hazel was already on her way to find him. Hazel stormed into the shop and demanded to speak in private. Joy's boyfriend not only refused, but also mocked her in front of his mechanic friend. Without another word, Hazel threw a punch straight to his face, making him stumble. She followed it up with a hard kick that dropped him flat to the ground. The mechanic tried to step in, but Hazel sprayed him directly with pepper spray, leaving him dazed and immobilized. Joy's boyfriend's face was now bleeding. Hazel then pulled out her gun and ordered him to follow her. When he refused, she fired a warning shot right past his ear. Terrified, he had no choice but to obey, grumbling along the way about his possibly broken nose. At the parking lot, Hazel snatched his phone and threw it away. She then ordered him to sit in the control booth and tied him up tightly with duct tape. Hazel drove for miles, heading deep into the Vegas desert with her daughter's boyfriend bound in the back. When they reached a remote spot, she dragged him out and led him to a shallow grave that had already been dug. Without warning, she shoved him into the pit. Hazel then revealed that she had dug the grave the very day she first met him because she knew the time would come when he'd hurt her daughter. With that, she pulled the trigger, then turned and walked away, leaving the body in the pit without bothering to cover it. The next morning, Joy kept texting her boyfriend but got no response. Sensing something was wrong, she confronted her mother about his disappearance. Hazel calmly lied, saying they had just argued and he had decided to leave the city on his own. Joy didn't believe her mother and revealed that her boyfriend's family were dangerous, violent criminals with a thirst for revenge. If anything had happened to him, They would definitely come after whoever was responsible. Still, Hazel showed no fear. Frustrated and angry, Joy stormed off. Elliot came to comfort Hazel, but both quickly noticed a suspicious man secretly taking photos of Elliot from a distance. Hazel immediately went to confront him, but the man quickly fled without saying a word. When she returned, she found Elliot sitting in the kitchen, looking anxious and lost in thought. The moment he saw her, he quickly composed himself, pretending nothing was wrong. That night, Elliot jolted awake from a nightmare. He quietly gathered his things and tried to slip out of the house unnoticed, but Hazel caught him. When she asked about the man who had taken his photo, Elliot simply said he didn't know anything, his expression clearly hiding something. When Hazel asked about his past and the secrets he was hiding, Elliot agreed to tell her, but only if she shared her own story too. Hazel refused, and the two parted ways. After Elliot left, Hazel noticed the same suspicious man camping outside, still watching and taking photos of him. When he eventually drove off, she followed him all the way to a remote motel. There, Hazel snuck into his room and attacked him, knocking him unconscious. A while later, the man regained consciousness, dazed, staring down the barrel of Hazel's gun. Under pressure, he confessed to being a freelance journalist investigating Elliot. He revealed that Elliot had once killed someone and was now on the run. To back up his claim, he urged Hazel to check the laptop, which contained all the evidence. In the motel room, Hazel found a news article about Elliot. It turned out he was once a renowned heart surgeon, but his career fell apart after he caused his girlfriend's death in a drunk driving accident. He had served 4 years in prison and had only recently been released. After learning the truth, Hazel took the reporter's laptop and walked away, leaving him with a warning not to come back. Everything seemed to return to normal. Hazel went on with her daily routine, serving her regular customers as if nothing had happened. That day, Hazel found Joy in tears, still unable to reach her boyfriend. Hazel tried to comfort her, but Joy brushed her off and stormed out. When Hazel followed her outside, she unexpectedly ran into an old acquaintance, Phil, a former coworker who informed her that their old boss had just been released from prison. Hearing that, Hazel froze, a sense of unease washing over her. She knew exactly why the man had resurfaced. He asked her to meet him at a location the next day, and she agreed. However, when they returned to the diner, he unexpectedly brought up Joy, complimenting Hazel on how she'd raised her daughter. But the praise carried a subtle threat, and it made Hazel furious. The next morning, while having breakfast with Elliot, Hazel told him about her encounter with the journalist and showed him some related documents. Faced with the evidence, Elliot admitted he had once operated on the reporter's father, but the surgery had failed. Since then, the reporter had held a grudge and was determined to destroy Elliot's reputation by digging up the old accident that killed his girlfriend. After hearing the whole truth, Hazel no longer hesitated. She turned to Elliot and asked for his help in dealing with the man threatening them both. Hazel pleaded with Elliot to look after Joy for one night, as she needed to leave the city to take care of something important. Though clearly uneasy, Elliot agreed to help. That evening, Hazel kept her word and met up with Phil. He took her to see their former boss, who was visibly thrilled to reunite with her after 20 years apart. He recalled the day they first met, when Hazel was just 15, and told her how he had taken her in and trained her to become a top assassin. After revisiting the past, he revealed the real reason he had asked her there. He wanted Hazel to return to work. The target was a client named Perry, and he offered her a large sum up front. But Hazel refused, firmly stating that she couldn't go back to that life even if she owed him a debt. Seeing her stand firm, the boss shifted tactics. He made veiled comments about her daughter and revealed that he also knew about Joy's boyfriend's disappearance. His words made it clear to Hazel that walking away wouldn't be as easy as she thought. Realizing the hidden threat behind her former boss's words, Hazel had no choice but to accept the assignment. That night, she went to the casino to secretly observe Perry. After gathering information, she returned home and had drinks with Elliot. As the alcohol loosened her guard, Hazel shared part of her past, how she had struggled with addiction, been rescued, been trained, and held for years like a tool. The conversation led to an intimate moment between them. The next morning, Hazel met with Elliot again, told him about her plan to leave that night, and asked him to take care of Joy. He agreed. That evening, dressed to impress, she returned to the casino. Pretending to bump into Perry by chance, she caught him off guard and piqued his curiosity. He invited her to his private suite, where they began talking and revisiting old memories. After Perry finished his drink, Hazel offered to pour him another and secretly slipped something into the glass while he was distracted. However, before he could take a sip, he shifted the conversation to their past, the relationship that ended 20 years ago. He confessed he still had feelings for her and hoped they could pick up where they left off. His confession left Hazel unsettled. Just as he was about to take a sip of his drink, she suddenly snatched the glass and kissed him to distract him. At that moment, someone knocked on the door with a message. Seizing the opportunity, she hid the glass. When Perry returned, they resumed kissing and agreed to see each other again. Later, Hazel returned to the diner and carried on with her daily life alongside Elliot, who quietly continued his dishwashing duties. Hazel had no idea that Elliot was actually an undercover agent working for her former boss. Under orders, he was assigned to monitor and report on her every move, and he had agreed to carry out the mission before leaving. At the diner, a police officer complained to Hazel about the growing number of missing teenage girls in the area. When she asked her cook about it, he claimed to know nothing, prompting the officer to remind her to report anything she might hear. At that moment, Phil showed up to warn Hazel that Perry was about to leave town, and if she planned to act, it had to be now. Seeing her hesitation, he reminded her that failing to complete the mission could cost her daughter. Frustrated, Hazel walked away, and Elliot came to comfort her. With a heavy heart, she asked him to take care of Joy, as she would have to leave again soon. Even as he hugged her in comfort, Hazel kept her distance and quietly walked away. Moments later, Elliot texted the boss, informing him that Hazel planned to act that night. Later that evening, Hazel entered Joy's room to check on her one last time before leaving. Hazel met with Elliot to let him know she had to leave for work. Though he tried to stop her, she remained firm in doing what needed to be done. As soon as she left, Elliot immediately called the boss to report in. Meanwhile, Hazel arrived at the hotel, loaded her gun, and stepped into the elevator to meet Perry. At the same time, Perry received a mysterious package containing a photo of Joy. Upon seeing it, he realized that Joy was his daughter, the result of his relationship with Hazel 20 years ago. While still in shock, Perry's wife suddenly burst into the room. To cover up the situation, he quickly lied, claiming the room had been set up for a romantic date night between them. Hazel had a change of heart and secretly broke into the boss's hideout. After taking down a guard, the boss watched through the surveillance cameras and ordered Phil to deal with her. Phil quickly loaded his gun, but Hazel ambushed him first and took him down. She continued toward the boss's room, where he was already armed and waiting. However, Hazel anticipated his move and shot him in the arm. Despite the injury, he tried to persuade her to return, revealing that Elliot had been working for him all along. But Hazel ignored him, calmly stating that she no longer belonged to his world.
I own him. And this is for me. The only good thing that came out of what you made, Dad.
Before pulling the trigger, she called him father, revealing that he was her biological dad. Hazel returned home with blood still on her, quietly cleaned herself up, and checked on her daughter in silence. The next morning, she walked past Elliot without acknowledging his greeting, leaving him confused by her sudden coldness. As Hazel was about to start her shift, Joy walked up, gave her mother a hug, and left. But just as she stepped outside, Joy heard a strange noise behind her. Turning around, she was horrified to see her boyfriend bloodied but alive. He gestured for her to stay quiet, and she nodded in agreement. Afterward, Joy approached her mother to borrow the car. Hazel agreed and handed her the keys before returning to work. While taking more orders from customers, Hazel suddenly noticed the chef was missing. Stepping outside to look for him, she was shocked to find a strange man attacking him and immediately rushed in to intervene. While Hazel was struggling with one attacker, another stranger tried to abduct a teenage girl. But when he saw Hazel, he abandoned the girl and charged at her instead. Hazel quickly overpowered him, but a third man suddenly pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots, leaving her collapsed and unable to move. Taking advantage of the chaos, the group of men abducted the girls and fled. Elliot rushed to Hazel's side, trying desperately to stop the bleeding as she lay motionless in a pool of blood.